Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for day 4, the last day of AEP operations training. We're very happy to have you here. If you have missed the last few days, in review, day 1 on Tuesday was Senior Marketing Specialist Resources. Wednesday was Medicare.gov, navigating that. Yesterday, we talked about compliance, and today we're talking about some carrier resources, aka basically going through the portals, kind of walking you through that.
100%.
Mike, you again. Yep, I'm back. They can't get rid of me here. My name is Sadie Palmer. I'm the team leader of training and education. And Ben, introduce yourself.
Hi guys, my name is Benjamin Lavis. I'm a part of the Agent Resources team. Actually, this month is my 2-year anniversary. So I've been here in the industry and with the company now for 2 years. So I'm excited to have the opportunity to bestow the things that have been bestowed upon to me, to you guys, and have some conversations about how you guys can have a really productive AEP, making sure you guys are aware of some of the resources that carriers have, especially with all the compliance stuff that you guys heard about yesterday.
Absolutely. So I get to just sit back and enjoy and kind of add some colorful commentary. But before I pass it over to Ben, have a few housekeeping items. First thing, please feel free to use that Q&A box throughout. We love, love, love. It makes our job so much more fun whenever you guys interact with us. Ask us questions, whatever you want, questions, comments, concerns, threats, promises, we can handle it. Throw it in there. What we will do today is, because we have a lot to cover, several carriers to cover, we will take questions at the end of each carrier. So make sure that you are asking questions throughout it, and we'll get to it. We'll answer those questions before we move on to the next carrier. And also we'll have a Q&A portion at the very end. So if something comes up, don't worry, you haven't missed your chance. We'll talk about it then. Let's see what else. Oh yes, today's recorded, as well as this whole week. Normally we don't record long series like this, but this one we wanted to, and we're putting it on the AEP toolkit. And also you'll receive a follow-up email today, and that will have all the recordings here today, as well as a lot of resources that we've mentioned throughout the week. This is a pretty hefty email, but it has lots of good stuff that we've talked about. So please take a look at that. But I think that that's all I have. So Ben, I'm going to pass it over. Yeah, day 4. Pass the reins over to you.
Perfect. So I'm a big proponent, or I never know words.
Advocate.
Yeah, I like that one better.
Yeah.
So I'm a big advocate of questions and jotting things down as you come to them. We have the whole question side on our side. So as soon as you have that question, don't try to remember it. I guarantee you will forget it. It happens to me all the time. So just throw it in the chat box. We'll kind of refresh, and once we go through each carrier that we're discussing here today, we'll take a look at those. And I wasn't aware that this will be on the AEP toolkit. So if I mess up, now my stuff will be forever stuck on there. So there's no pressure going into this whatsoever. Awesome. But yeah, so you guys can see here the agenda. Obviously, we're going over carrier resources here today. My goal is to have you guys at least familiar with these top 3 aspects of the carriers that we're discussing here today. That's going to be checking application statuses, which anyone who's had an AEP before knows that that's extremely important, especially towards those later weeks of AEP, to make sure that business is still with you. To download compensation or commission statements, that way you guys are being paid for the work that you are doing throughout AEP. And then locating online enrollment platforms, or the how to find the sales materials or enrollment kits on these platforms. That way you guys are prepared to have, like I said, a successful AEP as much as possible. The carriers we're going to be discussing here today, United Healthcare, Aetna, Humana, WellCare, and Essence are going to be our main 5. With a couple of honorable mentions. Devoted is doing some really fun things, and their portal is real unique in my opinion. And then Cigna, obviously, with the news that they are coming into the agent space on their prescription drug plan side, I felt it important to kind of at least make some mention to them and their portal.
Yeah.
So I think it's one that you guys, if you're not already using it, you will probably very quickly become very familiar, or need to come very familiar with it. So biggest aspect here today, I know Clayton spoke on this on Tuesday about our AEP toolkit. All of the websites and everything like that can be accessed from our AEP toolkit. So definitely something to keep in mind. If you have troubles finding these links and everything can be found through our AEP toolkit.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. So United Healthcare, we're going to go ahead and get started here. So this is what Jarvis's home portal looks like. You guys, for anyone who's probably written, is probably familiar with it. Can they see my little cursor at all? Do you know? Maybe not.
Let me see.
Just
Let us know if you guys have a hard time seeing the cursor on here. I think, let's see.
Looks like they can see it.
Oh, perfect.
Perfect.
Okay, sounds good. And also, just to let you guys know, these are all screenshots because obviously there's information in our portals
Yes.
that we're, can't just have out there on a recorded webinar. So these are screenshots. So if you have any questions, we can still answer them as much, but we can't click into certain things. Just so that way you know what's going on here.
Perfect. I appreciate it. And Mary, I see you saying here, any news what Cigna is paying on PDP? We don't have much of that information just yet. As soon as we do, I know we've heard a couple of different things as well. So the work is that they do plan, I believe, on paying, but as far as the amount or kind of what that structure is going to look like, we don't have kind of the details on it just yet.
Cool.
So for United Healthcare, this is Jarvis. This is your home portal. The biggest key takeaways is this is going to be where you find everything else. And some of the cool aspects here are like the pending applications, the approved applications, and then active members is a really quick way for you to kind of see what you are doing on a day-to-day basis or throughout AEP. From there, if you click that applications tab towards the top, you find a place where you can kind of check the application status, which is again very important throughout AEP. One key thing that you should remember throughout here is any application that you've submitted that is either pending or has been submitted in the past 12 months is where this will show. So business that may have been from over a year ago, that'll actually be found in a different report that I'll show here in just a second. And then obviously you have the capability to filter a lot of this stuff. So if you're looking for a particular application or wanted to check maybe a certain state or anything along those lines, all that can be filtered and organized from this spot here. So very, very beneficial to kind of be familiar with the application side of things. The tool, if you click on the tools section and then there's a drop-down menu, as you can see on the right-hand side, then you can click on Book of Business. This will show anything that you've ever done with United Healthcare. So if there's an application that has been outside of 12 months, that's where this will populate. So if you had someone from this time last year, but you wanted to check things again from AEP, you would go ahead to this Book of Business tab and take a look at it there. I like this tab a lot. This is what I primarily use when trying to find member information when I'm assisting agents. You have the capability to search via member status. So you'll actually be able to see apps that are no longer a current part of your book of business, and you can see if they came off of a United Healthcare plan, which as an agent might be nice to know, especially if, say, the carrier is making some changes in the upcoming year. That way you kind of know maybe it's worth revisiting since they liked United Healthcare previously. Another aspect that from this tab is if you are an agency owner, recently United Healthcare has given the capability to the principal or the agency login, the ability to see the book of business of downline agents. So that principal login, if you have an agency and downline agents, you're actually able to pull downline agents book of business so you can kind of see where they're at, and then you have that capability now. I know that's something that agents have been asking for a very long time, and United Healthcare's finally met us and implemented that into Jarvis. So that's awesome. Really, really exciting.
Yeah, that's great.
Commissions, a very important aspect on the agent side for all these different carriers. So there is a separate commissions tab that you guys will see in your login. Obviously, some of the stuff that I'm grabbing from is on the FMO level. So obviously, I don't have that commissions tab, but I do have some reference images for you guys here. It's that commissions tab, and you can search specifically for specific commission. Say that 10 times fast.
Yeah.
And then you can filter it here. So if you were looking for effective date, trying to find a specific member, or if you had the member ID number, you can sort by that. You can also take a look through the different month periods. So if you wanted to take a look at AEP last year, you can kind of pull that and take a look at the commissions. I personally recommend pulling commission statements. I find that to be just easier to read and is on a larger scale. So there's less likely that you're missing anything from a full-scale commission statement. So you can pull from a year, pull from a full month. And I personally also recommend Excel format. I am someone who speaks Excel. And if you're not, I actually created a resource on the Senior Marketing Specialist YouTube page that goes over how to organize and read your commission statements. So I would recommend downloading in an Excel, and then if you need a little assistance, either give us a call, we'd be happy to go over that with you, or refer to that YouTube video that I had created to kind of go over and kind of give you the initial steps and kind of taking a look at those commission statements.
Which that video will be linked in the follow-up email, so you'll see that.
Perfect. Sales and materials, or sales and marketing materials. This is a hugely underutilized tab, in my opinion. I feel like agents are constantly looking for compliant marketing pieces, or even more so, the first section we'll take a look at is the sales marketing portal. If you click order materials, it'll open up in a new tab, and that's where you will see something along these lines. You shouldn't have to log in. If it ever says that you've been logged out, just close out of the tab and re-click this link here again that says order materials. It's just one of like their safety features that'll log you out at a certain point in time. And this is where you can find your producer handbook for Medicare supplement, beneficiary or member forms, enrollment kits, really just about anything you would need to conduct your appointment. Can be found here, can be downloaded. So this image here, if we ever see this throughout the presentation, this is your download button. Not everyone is familiar with that downloadable arrow, but that is what that will do. You can also order these and they can be shipped to your location, your office or your home, whichever you would prefer.
How much are these going to cost people? Like if someone had never used this before, are like the downloads or the PDFs free and then you pay for the shipping, or what's the cost
That's
here?
an excellent question. It is my understanding, I've never had an agent really have to pay for any of these.
Cool.
Now, I will say a lot of the agents that I work with download these PDFs and print them. They could print them at the library, or if they're in the office, obviously you have a scale printer, you're paying for ink, paying for paper. But if you do want those ordered, work with us. We'd be happy to submit a supply order for you, or if you'd like to do it yourself. I've never seen United Healthcare charge for these materials. There are some others that they do tie a cost to, which actually kind of leads us into the next section. If you go back to that sales and marketing tab, and under here where you see United Healthcare Agent Toolkit, you can launch the toolkit, and this will take you to this section. And I think out of all the things that we will discuss here today for United Healthcare, this is the most underutilized. This shows CMS compliant marketing pieces, a couple of different aspects. So I actually brought in a couple that I use on pretty much a daily basis. So for this chronic special needs plans, if we were to click explore, you would be prompted into this section where you'll see like get started with Medicare, learning the basics of Medicare. And I have some of the other ones here. I think you guys can still see us. So learning the basics of Medicare, 2023 Medicare Advantage Clarity Guide, and then a dual special needs plan Clarity Guide.
Cool. Yeah.
So there's some really good pieces. What's really nice about these is that as long as the coding of the piece ends in the letter C, it means it's consumer facing and has been compliantly checked by the carrier. So I have agents utilizing these pieces in their appointments that kind of help guide their appointments. I really like this. I think there's everything from like even table banners and some fun, like if you wanted a United Healthcare polo or zip up jacket, different things like that, that can all be found here as well. So this is again the section where I'm just highlighting dual special needs. They do have it organized by product. So we talked chronic special needs, dual special needs. And speaking of dual special needs, Jarvis and United Healthcare have a really good Medicare and Medicaid eligibility lookup tool. It's one that I frequent when I'm kind of going over some of those different questions. So if you click this, this is on the main home page. If you scroll down just a touch, if you don't see this button, it should be right here in the middle. And when you click on this, that's what the eligibility looks up for the Medicare eligibility, just to make sure that their Part A and B have gone into effect, making sure that they have the ability to enroll into a Medicare plan. And then the Medicaid eligibility one, which I would argue is fairly important right now with the Medicaid redetermination that's going on. We also have a YouTube video on that if you'd like more details. I won't go in too far in depth, but just make sure you're familiar with something like this as a tool and a resource that you have as an agent. If you're not comfortable with using the tool or you're afraid you might enter something in wrong, Jarvis always has a live chat feature down here in the bottom right-hand corner that you can always click on and talk to a United Healthcare representative, and they will help you either do an eligibility lookup or assist you with a couple of different themes of questions.
Yeah. DSNP is such an underserved market that carriers are trying to do everything that they possibly can to get more agents to work with that population. So things like this and being able to, utilize the live chat as well, having these different sales materials for it. UHC is trying to make a big effort to make it as easy as possible for people to get into that DSNP realm. So just keep that in mind. If that's something that you're interested, call us. We'd have you talk to you with about it. But there are a few portals here that we'll see that have this Medicaid eligibility lookup. So yeah, just keep that in mind.
Definitely a beneficial tool to be aware of. And then obviously I promised that I would showcase where you guys can do electronic applications. In your tools tab under your guys' logins, you should see a lien tab, which will take you to liens portal where you can kind of complete your online enrollments. So that's United Healthcare. I know I'm going fairly quick with a lot of this stuff. This is being recorded. Well, and if you always have any questions regarding United Healthcare, you're more than welcome to give us a call, ask for either myself personally or anyone from the agent resource team. We're happy to go over that with you.
For sure.
Looks like we had a couple comments on United Healthcare. There's no charge for UHC items, also no shipping charge. You're right, Yvonne. I've gone through and looked at. Thank you for clarifying that. I know on those applications, there are some of the ones I believe that are from this agent toolkit that have a charge, but that's because they're full-scale packets or full-scale presentations. I think there's a couple of different ones throughout this item. I would hate to say that they're all free and then you'd find the one that costs $2 or something like that.
But it sounds like the ones that people probably are reaching for most frequently probably don't have a charge on it.
That's my experience. So cool. Perfect. Thanks for that clarification.
Yeah, thank you.
And then Jessica outlined, is there a place to order giveaways like pens for United Healthcare? So that's another excellent question. Just below here, there's a promotional items and there's an e-store. Now these ones do cost money. They won't, to my knowledge, you can't put in a mass order for free. Now I would highly recommend, and I won't go too far into it, have a relationship with your local carrier representative. They may be able to assist you with getting some giveaway items. So, but there is a promotional item store. That's where you'll see probably more of those banners, pens. I think they even have like webcam covers, laptop holders. They have a myriad of things that I'd encourage you to look through. Yeah. Very, very cool. So if there's nothing else for United Healthcare, we'll switch right into Aetna Medicare Advantage. So this is Producer World. And immediately you can see a very striking difference kind of with how the portals look. Both of them do a great job of supplying resources and information. Sometimes you just have to know where to find the information with different carriers, which is why we're having this webinar. So Producer World is going to take care of your Medicare Advantage and prescription drug plan side of things. So they have made a couple of changes to Producer World since last year when we did this. Here on the left-hand side, you're going to have your tab of all of your aspects. You're going to want to actually click reporting and book of business. This is where a lot of these things were previously split up and separate from one another. They are now lumped together. And from there, you would then click individual Medicare reports, which will take you to a web page that should look similar to this. Up here, you'll have member application search, which is where you'll conduct application or pending application searches or reports. Further down, they have enrollment reports as well, where you can see even a separate report for pending, and then a Medicare book of business report. And some of the cool aspects that they also have is a ready to sell tool. So you can ensure that you as an agent are ready to sell their products before you go into an appointment or an enrollment. And then a license report. If you're someone who maybe doesn't track always when your licenses are about to expire, that report will help kind of pull that information so you can see, what does Aetna have and where do I need to maybe take a look at relicensing or getting those reinstated. The top section is for you as an individual. The bottom section is if you are a part of a firm or an agency owner, so you can do it for the entire agency. That's kind of the split up between those two. Everything else, if you wanted to go back to the home page, here in the top right-hand corner, you'll see individual Medicare. If you click on that, you're brought back to the home page.
Cool.
I've got a couple of different things here that I wanted to point out, including their 2024 first looks. So you do have access to those if you have access to Producer World. And then some of the other aspects, this quick links tab towards the top actually has some really fun different stuff. It's a quick way to get to your certifications, quick way to get to enrollment kits. I will say I've experienced some latency or some lag with using this quick link, so just give it a second to load. It will traditionally load in a separate tab as well. There are other ways to access this information, but Aetna is making an attempt to have that quick section on their homepage to access some of that information moving forward. Then if you were to kind of scroll over, originally we were here on the plans tab. If you roll over to the enroll section, this is where you'll find the enrollment kits for their different product lines. One thing I did want to make sure that you guys were aware of, if you click the Senior Medicare Supplement and Ancillary Product Kit, this will kick you out of Producer World and take you to the Aetna Senior Health Product site, which is where their ancillary and their Medicare Supplement stuff is stored. So just keep that in mind. I'm not focusing on Medicare Supplement or ancillary in this webinar, but my team and myself are always happy to have those conversations, especially since during Q4, you're gonna be writing Medicare Supplement, you're gonna be writing ancillary along with your MAPD and your prescription drug plan. So if you have questions, reach out to us, we'd be happy to help. The big aspect here, SilverScript, they did make a change. Instead of clicking the enrollment kits up top, you do have to go down and access the agent portal. One cool thing about Aetna is they will ship you 5 SilverScript enrollment kits prior to October 1st. So as long as you're ready to sell and set up with them, you will get 5 at the very least. So you will always have those, which is kind of a unique feature that I was kind of stumbling upon when looking through all of these.
Yeah, that's nice.
And then the other section here is clicking on MA or MAPD order enrollment kits. When you go in, you will likely get prompted to put in a member or a username and a password. This is just your national producer number for both your username and your password. So a lot of agents get mixed up. They think it's their Aetna login. It's different. This allows them to make sure that your national producer number is tied to states and products that they can actually give you enrollment kits for. So if you get that login, just put in your national producer number for both the member username or the username and the password. So I've seen some agents get caught up on that. As always, if you ever need supplies, you're more than welcome to reach out to us as well. Some of the other aspects, you do have a bunch of other like forms, guidance, and instructions down here. But I want to kick on over to the share tab real quick. This is where a lot of the agents, or where Aetna houses their CMS approved marketing pieces. The marketing studio is where you can customize those CMS approved marketing pieces. Again, you do have enrollment kits here as well. I have not used this link personally. I find going to enroll and clicking on those other portals to be a little bit more trustworthy in a sense that this link, I think, gets updated less, whereas the enrollment tab stays more up to date for enrollment capabilities.
Got it.
They do have some really good educational pieces that I highly recommend you guys take a look at. They must have had 30 or 40 different documents for flyers and videos that you can take a look at and utilize moving forward. So something that I found, I'm not going to go into many of the marketing pieces like we did with United Healthcare. I use that as an example. So, but this is that share tab under the main page from individual Medicare tab at the top right-hand corner. And this is where you can find some of those educational pieces or the enrollment stuff.
Awesome.
Sounds like nothing for Aetna, which again, it's just kind of all thrown at you. It has a lot of really good information. So if you ever need help traversing producer worlds, even myself, sometimes I need to reach out to a team member. You have to take a look at that. Are you using Aetna Think Agent portal? So this is Producer World. Think Agent is their online enrollment site. There is some deeper information here with Think Agent. That's their virtual sales office app. That is what they're utilizing to submit online enrollments. I'm not a licensed sales agent, so I don't use Think Agent personally, but they have a bunch of different sites to quote and enroll, and you can access Think Agent from Producer Worlds. It should be, again, under this enrollment tab. I think it is also a quick link here in this drop down as well. So, but they are separate, so you can't pull your reporting from Think Agent, to my knowledge. That is purely an enrollment site, but Producer World will kind of guide you everywhere else and take you to Think Agent if need be.
Cool.
Last call for Aetna.
Aetna
I have a
questions.
cappuccino for Aetna. No? Cool. We'll switch on over to Humana. So Humana, let's see. Oh, will CSG be working for supplemental apps this year, or will we need to go through the company's websites? That's an excellent question. There are certain carriers that CSG is working with enrollment side. I think it's an excellent tool. I think when in doubt, the carrier website will always be safest.
Yeah.
But if you are familiar with CSG and its enrollment capabilities, I would say it's a safe option to use. I think the only thing that kind of holds them back is kind of the capability of adding as many carriers as there are.
Yeah.
Especially, I mean, how many new carriers did we add Medicare supplement wise this year alone?
Right. Yeah.
The likelihood that they'll have enrollment up and ready for all of those is just, I mean, the odds are stacked against them. So
Yeah.
I would say make sure you're always comfortable with the carrier site. That way you have a strong backup. But the CSG quote engine does have enrollment capabilities, and we're seeing more and more success with them every single day.
I think that's really good. Yeah. I think it kind of depends on, like, if you're using CSG every single day, or, you know, like if you're super familiar with it, super familiar what it can do and can't do right now, CSG will be fine. But yeah, I think making sure that you have a good feel for for each of those individual sites there. Can we get a list of which companies are working on CSG?
I'd have to travel back and deep into my brain to find all of them, but yeah, I can piece something together. I think we have a resource or a list of all of the current carriers that offer enrollment capabilities through the CSG quote engine. I will, we'll piece that together. We'll find it for you guys. With that being said, if there's nothing else on either CSG or Aetna, I'm going to go ahead and skirt into Humana. So this is the Humana Vantage site. This is where they house, again, a lot of information. It's always so interesting to look at all these kind of back to back because they always look so different from one another. Like each carrier has in their mind that ours is the most user friendly, and they just go in very different routes, very unique. So the homepage here, some of the quick things that I want to draw some attention to. This licensing and contracting tab, this will show similar to Aetna as a way to find if you have any expiring licenses soon. From that side, I want to point to your commissions tab. If you ever feel as though you were paid incorrectly, which does happen, carriers make mistakes. There are things that kind of get lost in communication or transition. So the first thing that Humana will always ask you to do is to create a pay audit request. That way their financial system can go back and take a look at, hey, what's the issue? We'll take a look at it. Basically, it just draw some eyes to what you believe to be an error. That is always the first step. So if you can go ahead and do that, and then if they still have issues moving forward, then you can reach out to us. And after that pay audit request has already been kind of gone down that path, I actually have an easier kind of time communicating with Humana after that pay audit request has been requested. So that's always step one. So definitely something to keep an eye out if you have any issues moving forward. Education wise, if you're doing Medicare Advantage and prescription drug plan, you'll be familiar with that tab. That's where you take your certifications. Sales and marketing, this is going to be where you find your first looks, your marketing resources center, any other like Medicare pieces for enrollment. So the library has a lot of really good pieces. The Medicare sales materials also have some really good pieces. So again, that's going to be kind of where you go to look for any of those marketing pieces. I think from there I can scroll. With Mac, it's up. Windows, it's down. I'm the resident Android user in the office, so I am not a big fan of Apple, but that's neither here nor there. So on the Medicare supplement side, if you're ever looking for an app packet, you'll click this link. This will actually download to an Excel file with live links inside the Excel file.
Cool.
And that's where you can find those kits. That's a very unique way to find application kits in my experience. So I wanted to make mention to that. The Business Center is where you will go for enrollment reporting. So that would be applications or book of business. We'll touch on that in just a second. The service inquiries here, this would be commonly when they ever have like a request for information. If you submit an application and say forgot a zip code or they needed some clarification on the application, this is where you will see an action required or an open inquiry to make sure that application gets corrected and submitted with any additional pieces of information. That way the app doesn't end up being like pending out and being kind of cast to the wayside. So if you see a number there, it's worth checking 100%. Let's see here. Obviously, quote and enroll. They have fast app options. Their enrollment hub, that's their electronic e-app platform that you can go through.
So what's the difference between Enrollment Hub and Fast App?
There are very few differences. Enrollment Hub was the original platform that they utilized to do, I believe, all of their different product lines, whereas Fast App is a newer one that they're bringing in to try to kind of, it's always to go faster. So I think that's the one that works offline. It has some different capabilities like that. Truthfully, the difference between those two, I haven't looked at super recently. I'm still in the process of prepping myself for AEP, including enrollment. So that Enrollment Hub and Fast App, I remember it was either my first AEP or my second AEP was when Fast App came out. I believe it's an offline capable site, similar to kind of Think Agent. But Enrollment Hub is the one that stays online, and I believe that one works for all of their product line, whereas the Fast App only works for a couple of theirs.
Got it.
But I'd have to do a double check through on that because I'm sure they've made some changes since the last time I've looked at it. App status can also be there. I'm not a big fan of going through application status at this point. I would recommend going to Business Center and using the enrollment reporting, which we'll go ahead and take a look at now. There's just so many different report types that you have access to in this enrollment section or the enrollment report. So here you can have submitted applications, pending applications. There's a whole list of different types of reports you can pull. There's a lot of filters that you can add to the reporting. So I'm a big fan of the reporting system with Humana. I think it's very hands-on, which as someone who likes a lot of data, I would prefer this. That way I can, I'm in control of pulling what I pull instead of being told what I can have. So I like this form a lot. The commission section that we talked about here, this is where you can find your statements. So it's just above that create pay audit request. This is where statements can be pulled. And again, here we see a wide array of different types of statements that can be pulled from Humana. You have current statements, prior statements. There's even statements that only include your bonuses. So if you were to take part in one of their contests or maybe some of their HRAs, they have so many different reports. So that's where you can locate these. I don't have the time to go into each specific statement. If you ever have questions on pulling these different types of statements, I recommend you reach out to us. A member of either myself or a member of my team can help you make sure you're pulling the correct one for what you're trying to find. And I think that's all I have for Humana. So again, a really good site. They do also have like a marketplace for all of their materials. So if you are a Humana agent or Humana is strong in your area, you do have the ability to access their materials as well.
Awesome.
Last call. Perfect. We'll go to WellCare, and this is where never before seen in the entirety of all things that are carrier resource related, I get to have the pleasure of spilling kind of the beans on the best way, in my opinion, to get to the WellCare portal. As I'm sure many of you are aware, frequently the WellCare Ping 1 link will change or get updated. And so if you have that bookmarked, it will take you to a dead link. And there's nothing more frustrating than technology thinking it's smarter than you and saying, well, you don't have the right link. When you go, well, buddy, 2 weeks ago, that was the right link, let me tell you. So I always recommend go to wellcare.com. This is what their homepage will look like. If you scroll down, you can see where it says become a broker and select broker resources. This will take you to a separate part of their website where you'll see the Ascend enrollment platform. So we'll go ahead and check off the EAP application here. This is their Ascend enrollment platform that you can do online enrollments through. But if you click broker resources here, it'll actually take you to an additional site, and you can access our single sign-on portal, and it's just by clicking on these words right here.
Cool.
So
in theory, you could bookmark this page.
100%.
Okay.
And in fact, I recommend you do. There are also so many other resources that are really good for agents that work with WellCare on this site still. But if you need to access the Centene Workbench, which is the most common one, this would be the the page that I would bookmark to access their single sign-on, because this link will be updated every single time their link is updated.
Got it.
So highly recommend. I know it's a little weird, and there was definitely some confusion kind of when they made that change over the past year and a half to this different single sign-on website. But that's my recommendation. I've been doing that since I've been here and haven't had an issue with this little single sign-on portal link here once you access it here.
Perfect.
WellCare best with Chrome? That's a great question, Michael. A lot of the carriers will recommend Chrome. I actually missed it on Aetna, so you're calling out one of my flaws. They mentioned that if you are trying to gather enrollment kits on the Aetna site, they outline that they really aren't compatible with Internet Explorer. So Google Chrome, in my opinion, has kind of become the new standard for technology, for websites, for any of these that are going on. So I always recommend using Google Chrome. If you are ever experiencing issues, I would take a look at clearing your cache, clearing your cookies, and refresh the page. And that'll kind of give it the capability to kind of re-communicate with the site. So Chrome is always the one that I recommend. Firefox is a secondary option. If you use Firefox, have a conversation with me after the webinar. I'll convince you to switch to Chrome. So, but that, again, that's beside the point. But it's an excellent question. Chrome is going to be recommended for all of these carriers and really for everything. So, excellent question. I wanted to also point out from this site the application enrollment section. So from here, again, you'll always have access to the Ascend platform, but you also kind of see some information about the personalized URLs, which are a hot commodity and talked a lot about right now. So if you're interested in having a personalized URL for WellCare, this kind of goes into how to do it and how to use it. Further down, by scrolling down, it'll talk about Ascend for electronic applications, but you also kind of have some information on paper application submission and what that'll look like. So this site, though it's not locked behind a password just yet, this broker resources tab is everything for a WellCare agent. Let's see here. I think that's all the things I had. So we'll go back to this Access Single Sign-On portal. Then you'll have another tab or another window pull up that will show your Centene 1, and then you'll want to click on Centene Workbench, and this is how you get access to the different reporting. So this is the home page for the Centene Workbench. They made this change just a couple of years ago. Some things that I wanted to point out, we'll go over the book of business section and we'll go over the application section. But the last thing I wanted to make mention to is my credentials. This is where you'll see any issues with your certifications, or if there are any attestations that you need to sign in order to be considered ready to sell. So if this number 1 is there, take a look. It's usually a report from WellCare that is requiring some type of action. And if you ever have an issue that you're experiencing with WellCare and you don't want to hop online or hop on the phone with them, or don't want to call us and have me do it for you, you can always submit a support ticket here. You have that capability as well through this portal.
Awesome.
So this is the application status. You can search it by member name, from when the app was submitted, your broker NPN, some really good app options here. You can also upload applications. So if you did have a paper app or whatnot, you have the capability to upload it through here. And that's that applications tab where you can find the statuses. And then your book of business is anything that is past an application or pending app. It can be found in the book of business tab. And then from there, that's also where you should be able to add, like just above this is statements. That's where you'll find the commissions part of it. So it looks a little different. Sometimes it pulls up into a new tab. Sometimes it pulls up into a new window just because it's Centene. But the statements are really easy to read, in my opinion. They organize them very, very well. I've had the pleasure to work with a lot of kind of instances along that, and the commission statements for WellCare are one of the ones that I personally, if I have that issue come through, I'm happy to take it, because as long as I can get the statements, it's usually easy to read and kind of get a correction put in place. So I think that's really all I have for WellCare. I'm trying to kind of keep a good pace. I know we're already kind of 30 minutes in or so. We only have a couple more left. That WellCare one is a really fun tip. So definitely make sure you're bookmarking that wellcare.com, going to broker resources, and then the broker resources tab under broker resources. I would recommend bookmarking that for this AEP. It'll make your life just so much easier if you're trying to access any of those reporting. Taking a look, make sure I haven't missed anything on my notes. Don't see that I see anything. So I will move from that. I guess I did miss one aspect here. There on the original page, there's this really good find a provider or pharmacy button up here. I say WellCare site is one of the better ones that outlines what their plans formularies are, what their providers are, what the pharmacy networks look like. I thoroughly enjoy how they go about doing it. It is a little weird. A lot of these carriers will have a way to find providers or formulary lookups. I would recommend, calling our office or accessing our AEP toolkit. We'll always have the provider lookup or the formulary, linked to the carrier-specific page in our AEP toolkit. All right, perfect. From there, if there's no other questions on WellCare, we will move on to Essence. And so Essence is kind of a new kid on the block. They've been around, at least we've been working with them, I believe, since the past like 4-ish years. I really like their portal. It's not one that I see have a ton of utilization on just yet, but I am really excited for it because I think they've laid a really good foundation moving forward for other agents to kind of make this the new standard when it comes to their portals. So some very kind of minute or quick aspects. If you wanted to check your applications, you click on application tracking. There's actually a really unique graph that would be shown here that shows kind of how many apps you've submitted per month, the numbers of approved, the ones that were submitted, any that were denied or rejected. And then if you scroll down, it actually goes very much so in detail, each application, if it was rejected, why it was rejected, just some really good data points here. So again, the nerd in me is kind of getting excited because I have access to such a really well put together report to make sure you understand where you're at with those applications. So I love it. It's I'm also a visual person, so the graph is really pleasing to me when you can see that. So if you're not familiar with the Essence portal, I would highly recommend it. Their book of business tab is also very, very unique in the sense that it will show you members by plan. So if you are offering multiple plans by them, you can kind of see maybe which of their plans did your members have a tendency to select at a fast view. You get to see new members as well as termed members. So it gives you a quick view to see, am I trending up or am I losing clients off of my Essence book? Which with kind of how strong their plans have a tendency to be, I wouldn't necessarily see as much of an issue where they're at, but definitely a really good feature to know. That way you can keep an eye on it as an agent. Very detailed, very hands-on, a lot of information. You can also check your downline producers here. So you get access as an agency owner to take a look at all of that. And it's just really, really, really beneficial. I know I have one more section here, but I wanted to highlight a couple of things. Their ready to sell tab is really, really good. It'll show you what you are ready to sell in for each of the states that you may be contracted in. So that's a really good tool. Their documents outline member forms and some materials. Their storefront is actually where their marketing materials are held. They have some really strong, I believe it's like dual special needs plans as well. And they have some really good materials for those plans specifically. So, and then right underneath that, you have another example of a Medicaid eligibility tracker or eligibility tool that you can utilize. So this plan, this is another one of those portals that is providing a lot of information, a lot of resources, a lot of tools for you as an agent when you're getting set up with them. Commissions will be one of the last things I mention here with Essence. I know it's a bit confusing sometimes. It'll outline when you can see these statements, and they will be available by the 20th of the month in which the policy is effective. So if it was effective August 1st, that policy should show on the August 20th commission statement. And all you need to do is select Go to Commissions, and you'll get a full rundown list of all the commission statements that you can export via Excel. I believe PDF is also an option, but I am a big proponent of Excel. If you need help running Excel, insert plug of my YouTube video or the SMS YouTube video. And if you ever need help kind of going over those things, we're happy to help anyway.
For people who use like Google Sheets, are you able to download something that's compatible with Google Sheets?
A lot of the time you can convert the Excel document into a Google Sheet,
Okay.
but it will initially come in as an Excel document. A lot of these carriers have defaulted to CSV or Excel documents. That's just kind of the new standard for these types of reporting, because it allows you to format, to organize, to filter so much in Excel. So
Sure.
I don't anticipate that changing too much, truthfully. So if you're not familiar with Excel, I would maybe set aside a weekend with a glass of your favorite beverage and take it that route, and kind of see, just kind of get familiar with it. And again, we are always happy to help any way that we can regarding that, this style of things. Mary was mentioning, what states are they in? That is an excellent question. I believe they are a huge component here in the state of Missouri, right around the St. Louis County area. As far as the states that they are located in, I would have to double check. I know they are making some pushes to be a strong proponent in all of the areas that they are offering. I'm familiar on the Missouri side, since that's kind of our forefront and our focus. I'm not super familiar with the other states just yet, but I will send you an email or we will reach out to you. But even if they're not available in your state now, I would definitely put them on a list or a sticky note and put it somewhere to keep revisiting. I think they're going to be doing some really, really great things. Kind of similar to one of our following carriers that we're going to talk about just briefly is Devoted. So Devoted, I know, is, because we had recently had a webinar with them, they're available to 13 states. And so we'll be going through those different ones, and they're available. So going through all of those, here's the home page. This is the home page for Devoted. You'll be able to see their first look. So if you have access to any of the, if you have access to their portal, you'll be able to access their first link or first look here. You can click on that and take a look at it all. One of the cool things that I really like too is you'll see your agency contracted states. So if your agency is set up with Devoted, you can actually see what states you're contracted in, which is really nice to have. It's all available on the home page as well, which is kind of like my big selling point. You don't have to kind of go through this big lineage of where do I click to access this. And that continues as you scroll down. You'll see all these sales tools and broker resources. So they're manual. You'll have access to, searching prescription drugs and providers, comparing plans, enrollment materials. All of that is accessible from the home page, which just is really nice, because then you don't have to try to remember, okay, well, where was the enrollment form? Let me check this lineage of, link trees and this, that, and another thing. So I really like their portal. It's also one of the fastest portals, which, may not really matter to others, but I am a nerd, so I like trying to track.
Yeah.
I think they just piece it together really well.
During AEP, you're
Exactly.
trying to get through some stuff.
Couple extra seconds, every client may add up to a couple minutes, a couple hours, it's all about the fine tuning of all things. Their reports come in a similar and unique aspect. You have agent certification report, so taking a look again at your ready to sell status, as well as pending applications. Both of those are downloadable here in a Excel file. So if you download these, you'll get that in an Excel file, both for your agent certification or ready to sell reports, as well as pending applications and application data, which is their version of book of business. Commissions, I really enjoy how their commissions are laid out. So throughout all of this blank space right here, it shows each statement, the amount that's on the statement, the date from the statement. So shows everything very, very upfront and easy, and then gives you the access to either download a PDF or an Excel document that you can then store I just think it's very easily legible, and commissions is something that can easily go into kind of the weeds of things.
For sure.
But if you make it simple, it's just makes the agent's life so much easier.
Yeah.
I think that's all I have for devoted. So there are no questions. Let's see. Can you please enlighten us on the mandatory call recordings with each of these carriers, and how about SOA? Thanks. I would love to go into that. That is going to be something that was probably spoken a little bit more on the compliance from Shaylin, our compliance officer, in the video yesterday, which should already be on our YouTube page. But Marcella, I will reach out to you. I'll try to see if I can't get an email sent over to you. Maybe you and I can have a one-on-one conversation about what that'll look like. Those call recordings and what that's going to look like. To my knowledge, we're still waiting for the sub-regulatory guidelines to come out to really understand what CMS means with all of that. So, but I'll see if I can't reach out to you. I think that's a good one-on-one conversation for you and I to have.
For sure.
Thank you guys. Excellent as usual. Got to run to employment. Have a good one, Michael.
Thanks,
Appreciate you tuning in. Well, then he's going to miss the most fun stuff. We have a lot of fun stuff and it's recorded, so it'll be okay. But this is Cigna's site. So this is the one that I'm really going to kind of wrap up and end on. I anticipate a lot of change from this portal merely because their prescription drug plan is now commissionable and accessible to an agent. So a lot of their stuff I imagine is going to get lumped into either it's going to be MA and PDP reporting, or how that's going to look like. So I don't know. As soon as I know, you guys will know. It's one of those types, but kind of just to brush the dust off of it so you guys are familiar. This homepage is really, really beneficial. This is their dashboard. It shows their quote and enroll aspects very easily for Medicare Advantage, as well as their book of business for MA. The application status for MA is all available from their dashboard. So very, very easy, very quick to get to. It's, again, not behind a bunch of different other links. There are other aspects that you can click to. This will take you to their Salesforce portal that I believe requires a separate login. So get familiar with those, but you should be able to access all of that from this main dashboard. Their commissions are, again, fairly simple. You throw it in there. You can see it by the payee name, which I believe shows up as the agency. So you can pull it in one kind of fell swoop and then download that and kind of get a more detailed view from that as well. So one aspect that I think is really cool is you can also see their compensation payment schedule here. If you click on this, you'll get like a calendar view of what that's going to look like and when you can expect to be paid on some of that business. So obviously that's subject to change if the carrier's going through different things, but that is a real nice way to kind of keep track of when you might see some payments come through. Let's see. Okay, thanks. I missed the yesterday class, so at least the navigation to the videos. Perfect. We will make sure that you should receive an email. I believe it's on Monday.
Later today.
Even better.
Receive it today.
Later today. That way you've got some light reading or listening to do on the weekend. So. And then let's see, Richard said, Cigna the only PDP carrier that pays commission? No, so for the longest time, Cigna was one of the only ones that wasn't accessible to agents. Prescription drug plans from just about all major carriers have access to at least some type of commission. So if you have commission questions, we'd be happy to work with you. If you want to take a look at maybe what you're set up with us, or if you're looking at other areas, we can definitely kind of advise on what that looks like for the carriers that you have. But Cigna is one of the ones that only recently became accessible to agents. Traditionally, prescription drug plans offer some type of commission traditionally. Yeah. So obviously that'll always be different and subject to kind of your situation. So if you ever have questions, we'd be happy to, have a one-on-one conversation. Commissions can be a touchy subject. So we'd happy to have that kind of one-on-one conversation with you.
For sure.
I think that just about wraps it up outside of like this showing their current PDP site. But again, I expect, this is kind of my inkling.
Changes.
I expect some changes because of the changes that they are offering in 2024. Yeah. So become familiar with it. I think you guys as agents will be at least hearing about this carrier, and therefore the portal will probably be second in line right behind it. So definitely worthwhile to kind of brush the dust off of anything for Cigna.
Awesome.
That's really all I have as far as I know. These main carriers I went through, I know I went through them very, very fast. Thankfully, this is being recorded and will be accessible to you guys. Plus, our AEP toolkit is housed full of not only the carrier links, but also what we outline as how to do business guides that give you a step-by-step and the links to where you can find pending applications, commissions, how to submit business, whether that's electronic application or paper, the whole 9 yards. So we have those resources available to you on our AEP toolkit. Again, that's on smsteam.net, and then it's one of the first 4 bars that you see when you scroll down just slightly. So
yeah,
those are the main provider or like reminders that I have, that all of the things that we've talked about today, you have so many more resources on. And if you ever have questions, you guys have us as a resource. Don't hesitate to reach out. We'd be happy to make your AEP a little bit easier. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So guys, we're wrapping up this week here. Hopefully you learned a lot. We're going to be here for just a few more minutes, so please feel free to throw in any questions that you have. And of course, we are completely available to you next week as well. If you're catching up on this, you're watching the recording, hey, feel free to call us. This is our website, so we have a live chat feature, so please feel free to use that as well, and give us a call. But we will answer a few questions here. Let's see. If you have an agency, do all companies require an agency and agent login where only the agency can see the commissions? Thanks. That's a good question.
Excellent question. There are a majority of carriers that require both an agency and an agent login. Your agent login gets shifted from a principal login to traditionally what is outlined as like a downline, because if you have an individual and a corporate contract, the corporate contract picks up the corporate and the principal side of things, which allows you to see commissions for the entire agency, and your individual will then traditionally, obviously, Mary, you and I can have a deeper conversation about what you are set up with, but traditionally then your individual one will be placed underneath the agency. So if you were to log in as your individual, you'll only see the business that's for you instead of for the entire agency. So if you're trying to pull reporting, whether that be book of business or commissions or pending applications for your agency, always take a look at logging in as that, because that'll give you access to the entire agency reporting instead of just you as an individual. So hopefully that answers your questions. They don't all require it. I would say a majority of the carriers have you have 2 logins, and then it's trying to figure out which one do I use, and we can always try to help simplify that for you.
Yeah. I
would say traditionally you're writing with individual, but when you're pulling reporting, you would use your agency login. So Carol has a question here. Do you have a generic permission to contact form available to agents to download? Excellent question. We do. It is on our AEP toolkit. If you go to smsteam.net, so this top one, you will need to have a login to access that permission to contact, since that is something that is behind a password feature for security reasons. But once you get logged in, you can then go to our AEP toolkit. And I believe as you scroll down, just after you get underneath the carriers and our fax application sheets, there will be 4 separate drop-down menus. You will want to look at the left one, and there will be some permission to contact forms, a generic scope of appointment form. There's a bunch of forms. I'd be happy to kind of go over some of those with you. I know Clayton did a really good job going through a lot of those as well. So if you weren't able to tune into the first day, I'd recommend taking a look at that as well. But there's so much information on that couldn't be compressed into one webinar. We'd be happy to set up a time to speak with you and make sure you can access all of those resources with us.
Yes, and then also our 2024 scope of appointment that we have on that AEP toolkit. We're still working on creating that and making sure that it's good to go, but the 2023 is on there, and you can feel free to use that right now for sure. So, but be looking out. There are some forms on there that we're still waiting to get the 2024 one on, but we're actively working on this.
Yep. Our marketing team is hard at work. I think just yesterday I sent 2 more things that I was hoping to get either updated or created or added or whatnot. And so they're probably sick of talking to me with how many things I am trying to see if we can't get on there for you guys. They are working diligently to make sure not only all of our pieces are compliant, but also that they're up to date with any new information that's coming out in the industry. So.
Yes, yeah. So guys, doesn't look like we have any more questions. Thank you so much for sticking with us throughout today and throughout this whole week. We hope that you learned a lot. These recordings will be available to you just here in this afternoon sometime. We'll send that follow-up email, and then also they'll be available on our YouTube page and our AEP toolkit next week as well. So yes, thank you all so much. If you have any questions, of course, please call that phone number. We're happy to help you. We want to make sure that you feel as prepared as you can for AEP. That's what we're here for. So Ben, thank you so much.
Of course, thanks for having me.
You did an amazing job. I basically sat here mute the whole time. But thank you guys so much. And hopefully we'll see you on some of our next webinars.
Yes.
Yeah.
See you
Thank
guys.
you.
Thanks so much.